Hello there, Crafty Doer. Jessica Michaels here from the Crafty Doings Mixed Media Paper Crafts. In this video, I am going to do a bit of a paper collage to create some beautiful greeting cards using the March 2026 Garden Party Mix Media Kit. So grab a comfy chair, grab all your crafty things, and let's get into the crafty doings. These kits are so jam-packed with a product that I still have left over from this kit, even after creating quite a few paper projects. I will link those videos or pop them up on the screen if you're interested to go and watch what I created with the Garden Party Mix Media Kit thus far. Now I have a handful of the beautiful scrap well, they're scraps now, but papers. And I'm going to do a little bit of collage. I love these papers so much, and I really want to highlight them. And this is one of my favorite ways to do card batching, especially for like thank you cards. I'm going to use just a regular 8.5 by 11 piece of white cardstock paper. Grab whatever adhesive you have. I'm going to use an acrylic matte medium by Liquitex. Mod Podge works as well. In fact, Elmer's glue, if you dilute it a tiny bit with water, it will be excellent as well. You can get as fancy as you want. I just happen to have this in a large quantity, so I'm going to use that. Now, there is a tiny bit method to my madness. There usually is. I'm going to go through every piece of a textured and fabric and pattern paper that I have left over. I love how Hannah handpicked this combination. It truly is just, I don't know, a mixture of like a garden party, because you have these yellows, these greens, this pop of a purple. I love the deep, it's like a terracotta almost, this one. And then the textures are just, I love them. It's just like the textures. And I was so blown away by this collection of papers that I really wanted to highlight them. And I thought this is a perfect way to do that. The key here is rotation and balance. So I start off with the floral tissue paper and then go down the list until I end up back to the floral tissue paper. And then as far as balance, wherever I see there lacks a certain color or pattern or texture, then I'm going to fill in. Now, because my matte medium, well, I should say because my adhesive is matte, I'm not worried about brushing on top of it. And if you are using perhaps like a glossy adhesive or a glossy Mod Podge or whatnot, then that is something to consider, whether you want your paper project to be glossy or matte. In the end, that is all up to you. Paper collaging is probably one of my favorite things to do because I'm going to use the word mindless, although I literally just told you about the method behind my madness. But I mean, I think it's a pretty simple technique. You know, again, you start with a lineup of papers that you want to use. And Hannah made it easy with her mixed media kit because she already hand selected a combination of papers that already looks good no matter what. And so you have that checked off your list. And so this kit makes it even, more mindless. And I wish there was another word I can think of off the top of my head other than mindless, but maybe therapeutic. And so you don't have to think about the prepping or selecting, and that's time consuming when you sit down as a creator, whether you're a scrapbooker or art journalist or just a card maker. Even it takes time out of your crafty time, and I know that a lot of us are stretched thin for time. I know for me with my 3 kiddos, 1, 4, and 7, And lately we have been going through a whirl of sickness and illnesses, and nothing like life threatening, but still like and not just running through them, but running through my husband and I as well. And it is tough. It is tough. And so art is my therapy, and it is me time, and so it's my hobby. It's my passion, something I enjoy that keeps me grounded and sane. And so I have to be very intentional about the time that I have in my craft room. And so I find pockets throughout the day, throughout the week, to get in there and set my next paper project up. And that way, when I have my next pocket of time, then I sit and then I can actually create. And I don't know if you can resonate with that, but that's how it's going down over in Michaelsville. So that's why I like paper collaging. It's nothing that, it's something that I don't really have to sit and spend too much time prepping. I can just grab my matte medium, a paintbrush, and honestly, a handful of papers. And this technique that I'm sharing with you, honestly, like if you're not happy with the collection of papers in your Crafty Maven Getaway Mixed Media Kit, I promise you that even with the mixed media supplies that are in your kit, you can make this work. And this is why, and I'm not going to stop saying it all video, this is one of my favorite ways to create cards. So back to the project. Now I'm taking a step back and looking into the balance of my collage paper. And I'm just noticing that I really want to add a little bit more of that. I called it terracotta, but it's almost like a bronze. It's just such a pretty color, and it is very textured. And so I'm going to keep those two things in mind as I select the areas where I'm going to adhere these pieces. And I may also just, take another step back to look at that balance and see where else I need to add any more colors or textures. And when I'm done with that, I am going to take some my heat drying tool to it and dry as much as I can, because these papers are so thick with the texture. They're a little bit heavy, and I did layer quite a bit. The white cardstock base should probably be set aside to dry for a few hours or a couple hours, but I am going to do it with my heat tool. Okay, so now that the collage sheet is dry, I'm going to reach for the Dina Wakley Media acrylic paint. This is called Heather, and also the Sizzix stencil. Using a stamp or stencil will make this collage sheet one big piece, because now I'm going to look across the collage sheet and not just see pieces of random collage paper. I say collage paper, but scrap pieces of paper. Now I'm bringing it all together with one major addition. And so I like this acrylic paint because it's soft. So it brings the softness into it, but it also pulls that purple from the purple cardstock that I use to collage. It is important when stenciling this to stencil at random and not the entire page. And also just note that I am using a sponge brush to dab the paint through the stencil, as opposed to rolling it or even like a piece of cloth. Or I don't want streaks on it. I want to keep that texture theme going through it, which I guess streaks is considered texture, but I guess I want that sponge look to it. Now I am going to grab the Distress Spray Stain. Bundle Sage is the one in this kit. It looks darker than it really is. And then I'm going to do a little reverse stenciling. And excuse me for it's off camera a little bit, but all I simply do is grab the stencil and spray some spray stain on it, clear the edges where there is no pattern because I don't want a big strip of just spray stain on my collage paper. And then I'm going to flip it over on to the collage paper and use a paper towel or even just a clean cloth to press down the stencil and pick up the excess spray stain. And you'll see that there's just a subtle, very subtle but beautiful intentional reverse stenciling. And in a collage project like this one, I feel like the details are special, and you'll see why later on in our next step. So ensure that this layer is dry. Again, I use my heat drying tool, and on to the next step. The Nouveau Expanding Mousse is quite an intriguing medium. It literally expands when you heat set it. And so if you want that effect, then just lay it on thick. And I do that in one of my cards. I'll also link in the description box below. But it has this beautiful shimmer, and that's what I'm going to use it for. So simply with the palette knife, I'm going to just scrape it on across the collage sheet, and I'm going to keep it in one direction. And then heat set it slightly just in case there are edges where I laid it on thick and maybe those could expand a little bit. But I find this Nouveau Expanding Mousse quite fun to play with, and it's very versatile. So this is the big step. This is where you were trusting the entire process to get to this step right here. And I am going to create A2 greeting cards, which are 4¼ by 5½. But on top of that base, I am going to use a stitched edge panel, or I should say like embossed stitched edge panel, which is 4 by 5¼ and then on top of that panel are going to go these strips. And so the strips are probably about an 1¼ by like maybe 3¾ long. And the only tip I have here is when to strip them down, keep them in that order. Don't jumble them. Don't mix them up. Don't just go crazy and start cutting strips of, 1 or 3¾ by 1¼ and just stack them up. Yes, I am card batching here, but it's really important to keep those strips in order. I don't know how else to explain it until I start adhering them here, because really what we're doing is paneling. And so this right here is going to be the panel to the base of the card, except I'm going to cut them in strips. So there's a tiny border of white in between each panel. It is going to look beautiful. Now, although I gave you the measurements, don't make me fool you. I am absolutely terrible at math and numbers. And I've said this before. That's why I am an artiste, because I don't deal with that. I eyeball stuff. That's just the way I measure. And so you are also welcome to use your pencil and mark it and fold it in half instead of measuring it. But in the end, when I finally did put it all together, I took the measurements for you if that's not you. So I'm gonna create one card here so that you can see, and then I will pop up the rest. This one 8½ by 11 creates for A2 cards. So the only reason why I put down this piece of plastic was because I didn't want to stop to clean my glass working surface, but I also didn't want to stain the back of my base. So see how all the panels are nicely organized together, and that way when I adhere them down to my panel, they create the complete piece of paneling, art paneling. And so just careful, I'm going to carefully adhere it to so that all of the edges around it or the spaces around it and in between are nice and even. Now, I did print out my own sentiment for this card, which is muchas gracias. It means thank you very much for those of you who are not bilingual. But when I adhere my sentiment, I like to keep it simple, but I also like to elevate it using some cherry foam tape. And here is the set of 4 cards I was able to create using the 8.5 by 11 collage paper. I truly do hope that you are inspired today to reach for your mixed media and create your next paper project. Until the next crafty doings.